The massive dome of the Galactic Council chamber stretched high above the gathered delegates. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the seats, their alien forms creating a sea of colors and shapes. At the center of it all stood a single human figure in a military uniform. General Marcus Kane kept his back straight as he faced the council tribunal. His dark hair was streaked with gray from years of service, and his weathered face showed no fear. Around him, the air hummed with translation devices converting hundreds of alien languages into something he could understand. In the gallery above, his wife Lisa watched with cold eyes. She wore her admiral's uniform, the blue fabric crisp and perfect. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, but her hands gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. The chief counselor, a tall being with purple skin and 4 arms, raised one hand for silence. The chamber fell quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. "General Kane," the chief counselor said, his voice echoing through the dome, "you stand accused of war crimes against the Zephyrian Empire. How do you answer these charges?" Marcus looked up at the tribunal without flinching. "Not guilty, Your Honor." A wave of angry sounds came from the Zephyrian section. War Premier Class, a lizard-like creature with golden scales, stood up from his seat. His forked tongue flicked out as he spoke. "The human lies," Class hissed. "His forces attacked our peaceful colonies on Kepler 442. Thousands of innocent Zephyrians died because of his orders." Lisa's jaw tightened. She knew the truth. The Zephyrians had been the attackers, hitting human settlements for months before Marcus finally struck back. But the council didn't want to hear the truth. The prosecutor, a thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes, stepped forward. "Honored Council, we present evidence of General Kane's brutal campaign against Zephyrian civilians." The holographic display in the center of the chamber lit up. Images appeared showing destroyed buildings and scared alien faces. But Lisa noticed what others might miss. The buildings were military bases, not homes. The civilians wore combat gear under their robes. Ambassador Carl Mitchell stood up from the human delegation. He was an older man with silver hair and a diplomat's calm manner. "Council members, if I may present our evidence." "The council has heard enough," the chief counselor cut him off. "The evidence against General Kane is clear." Lisa felt her heart sink. They weren't going to let the humans defend themselves. This whole trial was just for show. Marcus spoke up, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Council members, I have served this galaxy for 20 years. I have fought against pirates, defended trade routes, and protected innocent lives of every species. The attacks on Zephyrian military targets were in direct response to unprovoked assaults on human colonies." "Lies," War Premier Class shouted. "Your species is violent and dangerous. This trial proves humans cannot be trusted with military power." Other alien delegates began talking among themselves. Lisa could see the mood in the chamber. They had already made up their minds before the trial even started. The chief counselor raised his hand again. "The council will now vote on the charges against General Kane." One by one, the votes came in. The Altarians voted guilty. The Centauri Coalition voted guilty. Even species that had been helped by human forces voted against Marcus. Lisa watched as her husband's face remained calm. He had known this would happen. They both had. The council needed someone to blame for the growing tensions in the galaxy, and humans made perfect scapegoats. "The vote is final," the chief counselor announced. "General Marcus Kane is found guilty of war crimes against the Zephyrian Empire. The sentence is death by plasma chamber to be carried out in 7 days." The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens cheered while others looked uncomfortable. The human delegation sat in stunned silence. Marcus turned slightly and looked up at his wife. Through their neural link, a piece of technology that connected married couples across space, he sent her a private message. "Remember what I taught you about tactical patience. Lisa, sometimes retreat is the setup for total victory." Lisa's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded slightly. She understood. Ambassador Mitchell jumped to his feet. "This is a travesty of justice. General Kane was defending human lives. The decision is final," the chief counselor said. "Guards, escort the prisoner to his cell." 2 large alien guards moved toward Marcus. He didn't resist as they placed restraints on his wrists. As they led him away, he walked with his head high and his shoulders back. Lisa watched until her husband disappeared through the chamber doors. Then she stood up and walked out without saying a word to anyone. In the hallway outside, Ambassador Mitchell caught up with her. "Admiral Kane, I'm so sorry. We'll appeal this decision. We'll contact Earth Command and—" "No," Lisa said quietly. "There's nothing more you can do here, Carl." Mitchell looked surprised. "But we can't just accept this. Your husband is a hero. He saved millions of lives in the Outer Rim campaigns." Lisa stopped walking and turned to face him. Her blue eyes were cold as ice. "I said there's nothing more you can do. I didn't say there was nothing I could do." She walked away, leaving the ambassador standing alone in the corridor. 7 days later, Lisa stood in the observation deck of the prison station. Below, her husband was strapped to a chair in the center of a white room. Alien officials read out his sentence in multiple languages. Marcus looked up at the observation window. He couldn't see through the one-way glass, but he knew she was there. Through their neural link, he sent her one final message. "I love you, Lisa. Make them remember why they should never mess with humans." The plasma chamber activated. A bright flash filled the room, and then it was over. Lisa stood perfectly still as the officials filed out of the observation deck. When she was alone, she placed her hand on the window. "They have no idea what they just did," she whispered. "But they will." She turned and walked away, already planning her next move. The galaxy had just made the biggest mistake in its history. They had killed a human general and left his wife alive to remember it. The real war was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the execution. The galaxy had moved on as it always did. News feeds talked about trade agreements and border disputes. The death of General Marcus Kane was already becoming a footnote in galactic history. Lisa Kane sat in her small apartment on the diplomatic station orbiting Centauri Prime. She wore a simple black dress instead of her military uniform. Her blonde hair hung loose around her shoulders, and dark circles under her eyes made her look tired and sad. The door chimed, and Ambassador Mitchell entered with a concerned expression on his weathered face. "Lisa, you can't keep hiding in here," he said gently. "It's been 3 months. Marcus wouldn't want you to waste away like this." Lisa looked up from her cup of coffee. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. "I know, Carl. I've been thinking about what to do next." Mitchell sat down across from her. "Earth Command wants you back. Admiral Hayes says you can have any posting you want. Maybe something quiet, away from all this political mess." Lisa shook her head slowly. "No, I can't go back to military service. Every time I put on that uniform, I think about how the Council ignored everything Marcus did for this galaxy." "Then what will you do?" Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up with a strange expression on her face. "I want to join the diplomatic corps." Mitchell blinked in surprise. "The diplomatic corps?" "Lisa, I don't think that's a good idea. Being around these alien politicians every day after what they did to Marcus. Maybe that's exactly why I need to do it." Lisa interrupted. "Maybe I can make sure this never happens to another human family." Mitchell studied her face carefully. "Are you sure about this?" "Diplomatic work is very different from military command." Lisa nodded. "I've made up my mind. Can you help me get the appointment?" 2 weeks later, Lisa stood in the same council chamber where her husband had been sentenced to die. But now she wore a diplomat's formal robes instead of a military uniform. The chief counselor was speaking to the assembled delegates. "We welcome Special Envoy Lisa Kane to her new position as Human-Alien Relations Coordinator," the purple-skinned alien announced. "We hope her service will help improve understanding between our species." Polite applause echoed through the chamber. Lisa smiled and nodded graciously, playing the part of a grateful widow starting a new life. After the ceremony, War Premier Class approached her. The golden-scaled Zephyrian's tongue flicked out as he spoke. "Envoy Kane, I hope there are no hard feelings about the unfortunate business with your husband. He was a brave soldier, but war makes enemies of good people sometimes." Lisa's smile never wavered. "Of course not, War Premier. I understand you were just doing your duty to your people. I hope we can work together for peace in the future." Class looked relieved. "Excellent. Perhaps you would join me for dinner tomorrow? I would like to discuss some trade opportunities between our species." "I would be honored," Lisa replied. That evening, Lisa returned to her new quarters in the diplomatic section. Once the door was locked and the security sweeps were complete, she activated a encrypted communication device. The holographic image of Captain Jake Morrison appeared. He was a young man with short brown hair and serious eyes. Behind him, Lisa could see the bridge of his ship, the USV Intrepid. "Admiral Kane," Jake said quietly. "I wasn't sure you'd contact us." "I'm not an admiral anymore, Jake. Just call me Lisa." She sat down at her desk. "How many of Marcus's old contacts have you reached?" "About 40 so far. Most of them are interested, but they're being careful. Word is getting around that something big is happening." Lisa nodded. "Good. What about Amy Foster?" "Commander Foster is on board. Her intelligence network is already gathering information on council members. She says some of what they're finding is very interesting." "Perfect." Lisa pulled up a star chart on her screen. "I need you to start making friends with some non-aligned species. The Rigelians, the Vegan Mining Consortium, maybe some of the Outer Rim colonies." Jake looked puzzled. "What kind of friends?" "The kind who might be interested in certain pieces of information about their neighbors. Nothing too obvious, just enough to plant seeds." Understanding dawned on Jake's face. "I see, and what about the council members?" Lisa's smile was cold. "Leave them to me. I'm going to become the most helpful diplomat they've ever met." Over the next several weeks, Lisa threw herself into her new role. She attended every social function, joined every committee, and made herself available to any alien official who needed assistance. She had dinner with War Premier Class twice a week, listening sympathetically as he complained about Centauri trade practices. She became friends with Counselor Vrex of the Altarian Federation, a bird-like creature who loved to gossip about other species' politics. She even joined a cultural exchange program with the Andromedan High Command, learning their complex honor codes and military traditions. To everyone who met her, Lisa Kane appeared to be a grieving widow trying to build a new life through service to galactic peace. She was polite, helpful, and eager to please. But late at night in her secured quarters, Lisa worked on her real project. She studied files on every major council member, learning their weaknesses, their fears, and their secrets. Counselor Vrex had a gambling addiction that had put him deep in debt to Rigelian crime syndicates. War Premier Class was skimming money from Zephyrian military contracts to fund his personal fleet. The Centauri Coalition's trade minister was secretly selling weapons to both sides of a border conflict. Each piece of information was carefully cataloged and stored. Lisa was building a weapon more powerful than any plasma cannon or antimatter bomb. She was building leverage. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison and his team were spreading rumors and half-truths across the galaxy. A whispered comment about Zephyrian slave camps here. A suggestion about Centauri military buildups there. Commander Foster's intelligence agents were equally busy. They hacked communication networks, copied classified documents, and recorded private conversations between alien officials. All of this information flowed back to Lisa, who sorted through it like a master strategist planning a campaign, because that's exactly what she was doing. The galaxy thought it had executed a dangerous human general and turned his wife into a harmless diplomat. They had no idea that they had just given the most dangerous person in the galaxy access to all their secrets. Lisa sat in her apartment, looking out at the stars through her window. Somewhere out there was the prison station where Marcus had died. She raised her coffee cup in a silent toast. "Phase 1 complete, my love," she whispered. "Time for Phase 2. 6 months into her diplomatic career, Lisa Kane had become one of the most trusted figures in galactic politics. Alien officials sought her advice on everything from trade disputes to military strategy. They saw her as a neutral human voice, someone who understood loss and wanted only peace. They had no idea she was about to tear their galaxy apart. Lisa sat in her office reviewing the latest intelligence reports from Commander Foster's network. The information was better than she had hoped. Every major species had secrets they would kill to protect and enemies they would die to destroy. Her communication device chimed. The holographic image of Captain Morrison appeared, his face grim. "Lisa, we've got a problem," Jake said. "The Centauri Coalition is getting suspicious. They've increased security around their military bases and started changing their communication codes." Lisa leaned back in her chair. "That's actually perfect timing. Are you ready to implement the Rigelian Gambit?" Jake nodded. "Commander Foster has the intelligence package ready. But are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back." "There was no going back the moment they executed my husband," Lisa replied coldly. "Send the package." 3 days later, Counselor Vrex of the Altarian Federation received an anonymous message during his morning briefing. The bird-like alien's feathers ruffled as he read the contents. The message contained detailed information about Zephyrian slave camps in the Outer Rim territories. Photos showed alien prisoners being forced to work in dangerous mining operations. Financial records proved that War Premier Class was personally profiting from the slave labor. Rex immediately contacted his government. Within hours, the Altarian fleet was mobilizing for a humanitarian intervention in Zephyrian space. At the same time, War Premier Class was receiving his own anonymous message. This one contained intelligence about a secret Centauri military buildup near the Zephyrian border. The photos showed new weapons platforms and troop movements that suggested an imminent invasion. Class hissed in anger as he read the report. The Centaurians were preparing to attack while the Zephyrians were distracted by the Altarian situation. He immediately ordered his fleets to prepare for war on two fronts. Lisa watched the news feeds from her office as both species began moving their military forces. She allowed herself a small smile before activating another communication device. This time, she contacted the Rigelian Commerce Guild directly. The call was routed through several relays to hide its origin. Guildmaster Zenth, Lisa said to the slug-like alien on the screen, "I have information you might find valuable." Zenth's eye stalk swiveled toward the camera. "What kind of information, human?" "The kind that could save your commerce routes from vegan interference. It seems the mining consortium is planning to undercut your shipping contracts by establishing their own transport network." Lisa transmitted a data package that contained stolen vegan corporate documents. The papers showed detailed plans to bypass Rigelian space entirely, cutting the Commerce Guild out of billions of credits in shipping fees. Zenth's skin turned an angry shade of purple. "Those mining scum! We have exclusive rights to those routes." "I thought you should know," Lisa said innocently. "I hate to see honest businesses hurt by unfair competition." Within days, Rigelian cargo ships began experiencing technical difficulties near vegan space. Vegan mining vessels found their shipments mysteriously delayed or rerouted. Both species accused each other of sabotage and piracy, but Lisa's masterpiece was yet to come. She had spent weeks cultivating a relationship with High Commander Thex of the Andromedan Empire. The warrior species respected strength above all else, and Lisa had earned their trust by sharing human military tactics and strategies. Now she sat across from Thex in a secure meeting room, playing the role of a concerned diplomat. "High Commander, I probably shouldn't be telling you this," Lisa said, lowering her voice, "but I've been hearing disturbing rumors in the council chambers." Thex leaned forward, his armor plates grinding against each other. "What kind of rumors?" "Some council members are concerned about Andromedan expansion. They think your people are becoming too powerful, too aggressive. There's talk of imposing territorial restrictions." Thex's eyes blazed with anger. "Restrictions? The weak species of this galaxy dare to limit Andromedan glory?" Lisa nodded sadly. "I tried to argue against it, but they wouldn't listen. They're planning to present a motion at the next council session. Something about maintaining galactic stability by containing military powers." "Which species support this motion?" Thex demanded. Lisa hesitated as if she didn't want to cause trouble. "Well, the Centauri coalition is leading it. The Zephyrians are backing them, despite their current conflicts. Even some of the smaller species are signing on." It was all lies, of course. No such motion existed. But Thex didn't know that. The High Commander slammed his fist on the table. "The Andromedans will not be caged like animals. If these species want to limit our expansion, they will face our fleets in battle." "Please, High Commander," Lisa said urgently. "Don't do anything rash. Maybe there's still time for diplomacy." But Thex was already standing to leave. Diplomacy is for the weak. The strong take what they want. Within a week, Andromedan battle fleets were massing at the borders of Centauri space. Other species, seeing the buildup, began mobilizing their own forces in response. Lisa watched it all unfold from her diplomatic post, playing her role perfectly. During the day, she attended emergency council sessions where alien officials panicked about the growing conflicts. She offered helpful suggestions and calming words, always positioning herself as a voice of reason. "Perhaps if we could arrange a peace conference," she would suggest. "I could serve as a neutral mediator." But her suggestions somehow never quite worked out. Messages got delayed, meetings were scheduled at impossible times, and misunderstandings multiplied faster than anyone could resolve them. At night, Lisa coordinated with her network of human agents. Captain Morrison was spreading disinformation to fuel the conflicts. Commander Foster's intelligence teams were stealing more secrets and planting evidence of various conspiracies. The galaxy was starting to tear itself apart, and everyone thought it was happening naturally. Counselor Vrex contacted Lisa privately during one particularly chaotic week. The bird-like alien looked exhausted and stressed. "Envoy Kane, you're the only honest voice left in this madness," he said. "Can you help me understand what's happening? Why is everyone suddenly at each other's throats?" Lisa put on her most sympathetic expression. "I think the pressures of galactic politics are finally catching up with everyone, Counselor. Different species have different needs, and sometimes those needs conflict. But it's all happening so fast," Vrex protested. "Just months ago we were all working together." "Sometimes change happens quickly," Lisa replied. "The important thing is to stay calm and look for peaceful solutions." Vrex nodded gratefully. "You're right, of course. Your wisdom gives me hope in these dark times." After ending the call, Lisa allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The alien officials trusted her completely. They had no idea that the helpful human diplomat was the architect of their destruction. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a photo of Marcus in his military uniform. He was smiling, the way he used to smile when he was planning a particularly clever strategy. "You always said the best battles are won before they're fought," Lisa whispered to the photo. "Well, my love, this battle is almost over, and they still don't know it's started." Outside her window, she could see the lights of various alien ships as they hurried back and forth between star systems. Each ship carried diplomats trying to prevent wars or soldiers preparing to fight them. None of them realized that both the wars and the peace efforts were being orchestrated by the same person. The first shots were fired on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time. A Zephyrian patrol ship operating near the disputed border with Centauri space detected what appeared to be a Centauri stealth vessel. The Centauri ship had been planted there by Commander Foster's intelligence network, broadcasting fake identification codes and carrying forged military orders. When the Zephyrian captain demanded the ship identify itself, the automated response system replied with an insult in the Zephyrian language, something about the captain's mother and a diseased swamp creature. The Zephyrian ship opened fire immediately. Within hours, the incident had escalated into a full battle as both sides rushed reinforcements to the area. By the end of the week, 3 star systems were burning. Lisa watched the news feeds from her diplomatic office with carefully controlled expressions of horror and concern. Around her, alien officials ran back and forth in panic, trying to contact their home governments and arrange emergency peace talks. "This is terrible," she said to Ambassador Mitchell, who had come to check on her. "How did things get so bad so quickly?" Mitchell shook his gray head sadly. "I don't know, Lisa. Everyone's been on edge for months, but this level of violence, it's like the whole galaxy has gone insane." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe I should try to arrange a ceasefire. The Zephyrians trust me, and I have contacts in the Centauri government." "That's a good idea," Mitchell agreed. "You might be the only person both sides will listen to right now." Lisa did indeed arrange several ceasefire negotiations. Unfortunately, they all failed due to various misunderstandings and communication errors. Sometimes messages were delayed just long enough to miss critical deadlines. Sometimes translators made small but important mistakes. And sometimes key negotiators received anonymous intelligence about enemy troop movements that made them suspicious of the peace talks. While the Zephyrian-Centauri War raged on, other conflicts erupted across the galaxy. The Altarian Federation fractured into civil war after someone leaked evidence that half their government was taking bribes from various criminal organizations. "The evidence was real, Commander." Foster's people had been very thorough in their investigations. The Rigelian Commerce Guild and the Vegan Mining Consortium moved from economic warfare to actual warfare, after a series of accidents destroyed several important facilities on both sides. Captain Morrison's agents had been busy with demolition charges and computer viruses. Most dramatically, the Andromedan High Command launched a massive invasion of Centauri space, claiming they were liberating the galaxy from corrupt politicians. High Commander Thex led the assault personally, still believing he was fighting against a council conspiracy to limit Andromedan expansion. The council tried to respond to the growing chaos, but their emergency sessions kept getting disrupted. Someone had hacked their communication systems, causing important messages to be delayed or sent to the wrong recipients. Security systems malfunctioned at crucial moments. Even the translation devices began producing embarrassing errors that led to diplomatic incidents. Lisa attended every emergency meeting, offering helpful suggestions and appearing deeply concerned about the violence spreading across the galaxy. Perhaps we need to establish neutral zones, she would suggest. Areas where refugees can flee the fighting. Maybe we should impose economic sanctions on the warring parties, she would say, thoughtfully. Have we considered asking the Outer Rim species for mediation assistance? Her suggestions were always reasonable and well-intentioned. They also somehow never worked out. The neutral zones became battlegrounds when accidental weapon systems failures led to attacks on refugee ships. Economic sanctions hit the wrong targets due to paperwork errors. And the Outer Rim mediators turned out to have their own conflicts with the warring species. 6 months after the first shots were fired, the galaxy was in complete chaos. The Zephyrian Empire was fighting on 4 different fronts and losing ground everywhere. War Premier Class had been forced to retreat to his home system, where he spent his days screaming orders at generals who no longer had armies to command. The Centauri coalition had split into 3 separate factions, each claiming to be the legitimate government. They spent as much time fighting each other as they did fighting external enemies. The Altarian Federation no longer existed as a unified government. Bird-like aliens who had once cooperated in galactic politics now shot at each other over ancient, territorial disputes that had been deliberately stirred up by carefully placed intelligence leaks. Trade routes that had operated safely for centuries became war zones. Merchant ships were attacked by pirates, military vessels, or desperate governments looking for supplies. The galactic economy collapsed as entire sectors were cut off from commerce. Refugee ships wandered between star systems, looking for safe harbor in a galaxy that no longer had any safe places. The only stable military force left was the human fleet. While alien species tore themselves apart, human colonies thrived. Captain Morrison led humanitarian missions that happened to secure strategic resources and defensive positions. Human cargo ships filled the gaps left by destroyed alien merchant fleets, taking over trade routes and establishing new colonies in abandoned systems. Lisa coordinated much of this expansion from her diplomatic post, using her position to identify the best opportunities and ensure human ships avoided the worst fighting. "We're just trying to help," she would explain to any alien officials who questioned human activities. "Someone has to maintain order while you sort out your political difficulties." The few remaining council members who still tried to function as a government began begging for human assistance. Envoy Kane, Councillor Vrex said during one desperate communication. His feathers were molting from stress and his eyes darted nervously around the room. "You have to help us. The humans are the only species that isn't fighting anyone. Maybe your fleet can enforce a general ceasefire." Lisa appeared to consider the request carefully. "I'll talk to Earth Command, Counselor. But you have to understand, our people are reluctant to get involved in conflicts between other species. We've seen what happens when humans try to keep the peace." She let the implication hang in the air. Frex's eyes widened as he remembered General Kane's execution. "Of course," he said quickly, "we understand your people's concerns. But surely in a humanitarian capacity." "I'll see what I can do," Lisa promised. She did speak to Earth Command, but the conversation was not what Vrex might have expected. "Admiral Hayes," Lisa said to the stern-faced woman on the secure communication channel. "It's time to implement the final phase." Admiral Hayes nodded grimly. "Are you sure, Lisa? Once we do this, there's no pretending we're neutral observers anymore." Lisa looked out her window at the burning galaxy beyond. Somewhere in the distance, she could see the flashes of weapons fire as 2 alien fleets destroyed each other over a planet that would soon be empty of life. "They made their choice when they killed Marcus," she said quietly. "Now it's time for them to live with the consequences." "Understood. Operation Cleanup is authorized." Lisa ended the communication and returned to her desk. There was still work to do. The galaxy wasn't quite finished burning yet, and she wanted to make sure the fire spread to every corner that had supported her husband's execution. Soon, very soon, it would be time to step out from behind the mask of the helpful diplomat and show the galaxy who had really been pulling the strings. 2 years after General Marcus Kane's execution, the Galactic Council chamber stood empty and dark. The great dome that had once housed thousands of delegates was now a hollow shell, its lights broken and its floors covered with debris. Lisa Kane stood in the center of the ruined chamber, wearing her admiral's uniform once again. Around her, human soldiers secured the building while technicians set up broadcasting equipment. Soon every functioning communication system in the galaxy would carry her message. Captain Morrison approached with a data pad in his hands. His young face showed the strain of the past 2 years, but his eyes were bright with victory. "All major systems are under human control," he reported. "The Zephyrian Empire surrendered this morning. War Premier Class is requesting personal amnesty in exchange for full cooperation." Lisa's expression didn't change. "Denied. Class will stand trial for his war crimes, along with every other official who voted to execute my husband." Morrison nodded and made a note on his pad. "Commander Foster's final intelligence report shows over 4 billion military casualties across all species. Civilian losses are estimated at 12 billion. Acceptable," Lisa said coldly. "What about resistance movements?" "Minimal. The Andromedan High Command is still fighting, but they're surrounded in their home system. High Commander Thex refuses to surrender, but his forces are running out of supplies." Lisa almost smiled. Thex was useful, but he always was too proud for his own good. Let him starve for a few more weeks. "He'll come around." The broadcast technician, a young human woman with red hair, looked up from her equipment. "We're ready, Admiral. The signal will reach every inhabited system in the galaxy." Lisa walked to the center of the chamber and faced the cameras. Behind her, holographic displays showed the human fleet patrolling the galaxy, thousands of ships maintaining order in the ruins of alien civilizations. The red light on the camera blinked on. "Citizens of the galaxy," Lisa began, her voice calm and authoritative. "My name is Admiral Lisa Kane, First Commander of the Human Hegemony. For 2 years, you have watched your governments tear themselves apart in senseless wars. Today, that chaos ends." She paused, looking directly into the camera with cold blue eyes. 2 years ago, the Galactic Council executed my husband, General Marcus Kane. They called him a war criminal for defending innocent human lives. They ignored his 20 years of faithful service to galactic peace. They chose politics over justice, and weakness over strength. The displays behind her changed to show images of the destroyed alien fleets and burning worlds. You thought humans would accept this injustice and move on. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. Lisa began to walk slowly around the chamber as she spoke, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. "Every war you have fought, every conflict that has torn your worlds apart, every death in the past 2 years, all of it was planned and executed by human intelligence. We turned your own prejudices and fears against you. We used your secrets as weapons. We made you destroy yourselves." She stopped walking and faced the camera again. "The Zephyrian Centauri War began because we fed both sides false intelligence about each other's intentions. The Altarian Civil War started because we leaked evidence of corruption that your own officials were too incompetent to hide. The economic collapse happened because we manipulated your trade agreements and shipping routes." The displays now showed footage of Lisa herself at various diplomatic functions, smiling and shaking hands with alien officials who were now dead or imprisoned. "I attended your parties. I listened to your complaints. I offered helpful advice. And all the while I was gathering the information needed to bring down your entire civilization." Lisa's voice grew harder, more passionate. "You see, when you execute a human general, you don't just kill one man. You declare war on his entire species. You tell us that human lives don't matter, that human sacrifice means nothing to you. And humans, unlike the weak aliens you're used to dealing with, don't forget insults like that." She walked over to a broken alien statue that had once honored some long-dead council member. "Your governments are gone. Your fleets are destroyed. Your economies have collapsed. Billions of your people are dead, and the survivors exist only because we allow it." Lisa kicked a piece of debris across the floor. "But I am not without mercy. The human hegemony offers you a choice. Accept human leadership and the protection it provides, or continue your wars without our interference. Choose quickly, because our patience is limited." The displays changed again to show human ships delivering supplies to refugee camps and establishing order in former war zones. "We have already begun restoring order to systems that accept our authority. Human medical teams are treating the wounded. Human engineers are rebuilding destroyed infrastructure. Human forces are protecting civilians from the chaos your leaders created." Lisa returned to the center of the chamber. To the alien officials watching this broadcast, know that we have complete files on all of you. We know which ones voted to execute my husband. We know which ones supported the decision, and we know which ones tried to stop it. Her voice became deadly quiet. Justice will be served. Those responsible for Marcus Kane's death will face human tribunals. Those who oppose the execution will be treated fairly under the new order. And those who choose to resist will be eliminated. She looked directly at the camera one final time. My husband once told me that the best victories are won before the battle begins. Well, this battle was won 2 years ago. The moment you decided to murder an innocent man. You just didn't know it yet. Lisa turned and walked toward the chamber exit, her boots clicking on the broken floor. Welcome to the human galaxy. Try not to disappoint us again. The broadcast ended. Within hours, surrender messages began pouring in from across the galaxy. The few remaining alien governments offered unconditional capitulation, rather than face continued human wrath. Hi, Commander. Thex held out for another 3 weeks before his starving soldiers finally surrendered. The proud Andromedan warrior was found dead in his command center, having chosen suicide over submission to human rule. War Premier Class and the other officials responsible for Marcus Kane's execution were tried by human military tribunals. Most were sentenced to life imprisonment. A few, including Class himself, received the same sentence they had given Marcus, death by plasma chamber. 1 year later, Lisa stood before a massive memorial statue on New Terra, the new capital world of the human hegemony. The statue showed Marcus Kane in his military uniform, looking out over the stars with a calm, determined expression. At the base of the statue, golden letters spelled out the inscription, General Marcus Kane, Defender of Humanity, Avenger of Justice. Lisa placed a wreath of earth flowers at the statue's feet, as she did every week. Justice served, my love, she whispered. The galaxy will remember that you don't execute a human general and expect his people to forget. She stepped back and looked up at her husband's face, carved in stone but somehow still showing that slight smile he used to wear when a plan came together perfectly. Behind her, the lights of New Terra stretched to the horizon. Human ships moved between the stars, carrying colonists to new worlds and resources to rebuild the galaxy under human guidance. Alien species that had once looked down on humanity now worked under human supervision, grateful for the stability and protection the hegemony provided. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans were not the weak, emotional species the aliens had thought them to be. They were patient, calculating, and utterly ruthless when protecting their own. Lisa turned away from the statue and walked back to her transport. There was still work to do. The human hegemony needed to expand further, to make sure no corner of the galaxy ever forgot what happened when you crossed humanity. As her ship lifted off toward the stars, the memorial statue stood silent in the night, a permanent reminder of the price of underestimating the human capacity for revenge. Marcus Kane had been a general who fought to protect human lives. His wife had become something far more dangerous, an admiral who had conquered an entire galaxy in his memory. The aliens had executed one human and created a monster. Now they would live with the consequences for the rest of their species' existence.